With the final season of Umbrella Academy finally out, I want to take a look back and see how it all stacks up. But also mainly talk about the final season, because that's what I remember most, as it did just come out. Welcome to Sandwich Reviews. I'm the Talking Sentient Sandwich, and I don't think this show has ever been able to replicate the success that Season 1 had. I do recall the writing sometimes coming off as cringy and even bordering on bad, and that does continue in the most recent season, but the characters have always been interesting enough to compel me to watch more. Plus, the show has always been pretty good at tackling some serious issues with delicacy. I have enjoyed every new season, yet it's been with diminishing returns. Season 2 had one of my favorite lines ever, which was something like, "Everyone's a hero, everyone changes the world, it just depends on how much." A line I will never forget, and it was from Diego of all people, but aside from that, I don't remember much about Season 2 or 3. The memories started to come back a few episodes in, but I still really appreciated the recap that Season 4 had. And in this final season, it was interesting to start out seeing all of these characters I had gotten to know going about new lives. Some of the choices the writers made threw me off at first, but in the end, it all worked. One of the many flaws that I did notice was that a lot of the time, of the many characters, one is sent on a side quest, sometimes entirely separate from the plot, just to give them something to do. That never really bothered me before, but for the final season, I would have liked it to be more concise. The show has also gone in a lot of odd directions, which was always welcome, because that's the tone it's gone for. Freaky and odd people put in even more bizarre situations. But that has always been grounded with three-dimensional characters who have also been understandable. Likeability or eccentricity was traded out to portray a couple of weirdos in Season 4, but I'm always game to see more of Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally, who were perfect inclusions to the show. It's also about superheroes, so obviously there's going to be lots of special effects, but it shows stuff like that sparingly. Almost to the point that you can tell when the show is attempting to hide the budget, but that is almost never noticed because the overall production is so incredibly good. It's not quite as spectacular as Loki, my standard for a TV level production budget, but not everything can get Disney money behind it. And as far as the plot goes for the final season as a whole, it's easy to tell that this ending wasn't planned out from the beginning, which I obviously prefer, but Umbrella Academy all came off as cohesive, and the progression of character and story always made sense. The plot for the fourth season doesn't really get started until episode 3, which isn't great because there's only 6 in total, but I still enjoyed everything before then. I should also mention how Netflix releases their shows, because I personally love being able to binge something all at once. But the full drop of a season has ruined pretty much every season of this show, or at least any chance for it to gain large popularity. A weekly release would have made an event of this show, but instead, it's all dumped out for people like me to watch it in 1 or 2 sittings. And because of that, it just comes and goes. More intelligent people spread out watching a show like this despite being able to binge it, but hey, I do what I want. But if you enjoy sometimes quirky, sometimes serious superhero shows, and you somehow haven't seen The Umbrella Academy, check it out, because now that it has officially wrapped up, I can confidently say that it is all well worth a watch. Despite some lulls, and storylines that should have been written better or cut entirely, so maybe I shouldn't recommend you check out Season 4, but the rest of it is good enough that you'll probably enjoy it, even with the minor, or sometimes not so minor character assassinations. So if you haven't seen the show or all of Season 4, because I'm only going to talk spoilers about the final season, you might want to pause the video, because it's time to dive into some spoilers. Starting off with, whose laser eyes did Lila mimic? Maybe I missed the explanation, but that just came out of nowhere. But anyway, the season should have started with the little girl getting cut out of the squid. The intrigue I had after watching that was through the roof, and the small hint of the cleanse was a great moment. That did tie directly into something that happened in that episode, but I would have liked it so much more as a cold open hook for the whole season. And also, one of my favorite characters, Klaus, goes through the ringer. He can sort of fly, so it's cool that was included, even though it barely plays into anything. And when Klaus was in the coffin, it was lit way too bright. It's nitpicking, but his lighter should have been the only source of light, because even when it went out, you could still see clearly. I know that was probably not what the character was experiencing, and that was just filmed like that for the viewer's clarity, but screw that. I'd rather have a blank screen for immersiveness. And at first, it was entertaining to see Five and Lila traveling the multiverse, even if we didn't see that much of it, but I still thought it was fun. Or rather, I thought the one montage was fun, because after that, they hooked up and their relationship felt so off. I thought maybe that could have been the point of it, with the relationship built on them being the only two people there, but no, the writers were actually pairing them together. Maybe I wasn't a fan of it because it meant that Lila had to cheat on Diego, but even if you put that aside, which you should not, Five and Lila still didn't work. But on a happier note, I loved Diego breaking the plot down with all the split screens. It was a fun moment that made me remember why I loved the show in the first place. Ben's death being explained was something I never thought I needed as well, but it was appreciated. It was a mystery I didn't think would be answered by hopping into their memories, but the reveal that Ben and Jennifer will always cause an apocalypse worked for me as a satisfying conclusion to the show in general. Like every season, the last couple of episodes simplify the plot to one thing happening in one place, which is much appreciated because before then, the show goes in almost every direction. I also feel like the writers had Vic make him and Hargreaves negotiate only because he could have annihilated that army easily, or he could have in the past seasons. I guess maybe not with his new powers, because he was significantly depowered, or not even that. Instead, his unique sound abilities were switched out for an uninspired energy blast. At least that's the way it seemed. And in the finale, the VFX on the Resident Evil transformations Ben and Jennifer were going through looked very TV budget. At times it looked alright, but it still wasn't great, which sucks because that was supposed to be an emotional part of the finale. And it was a weird point to end the series with all the characters sacrificing themselves, but as I mentioned before, that's the show. Even the way it was filmed reminded me of the way the first season wrapped up, and I loved the final sequence with all the villains and side characters having a picnic. It was just nice seeing them all, especially Herb. Could always use more of him, but I was waiting for Mary J. Blige, and she never showed up. Guess they couldn't afford her. But those are my thoughts on the final season of Umbrella Academy and the show as a whole, which I undeniably enjoyed. If you agree or walked away from this show with a different opinion, drop a comment and let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for weekly video essays and reviews, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.